it's important that we have participants participating. Chuck's saying that some people, we had an election here in the U.S. and in many places it was went down to the wire, so people may have stayed up late to follow the election results. We did make special outreach to a number of participants in different countries. I know Aksa said that she was going to participate. And who else? Claire from Great Britain was going to join us, but I don't see many people. So maybe we could start, since we have, what about, can people hear Ross? Sandeep, if Ross is on the phone, we set up a phone line because Ross had issues trying to access Moodle on Wednesdays. But if he talks on the phone, will people be able to hear him on the Moodle site? You can't hear him, Chuck, because he hasn't said anything yet. Oh no, people won't be able to hear him. This is just a listen-only phone line. Is that right? Okay, so that has some limitations for this particular kind of forum, where we want people to share the work that they've been doing. Is there a chance in the future we could make this a two-way audio hookup, or is that a big deal to do? He suggests I turn my phone. Well, Ross hasn't said anything. Ross, why don't you, can you say a few words, and we're just going to do a test to see if your audio can be picked up by my computer. Hello, Ross, can you hear me? Hello, Ross, are you there? Hello? No, we don't have Ross. Hello? Hello? I think we've lost Ross for the time being. I believe I'm still on the phone line. I'm going to dial in the phone line number again.
Welcome. This service is provided by freeconferencecall.com. Please enter your access code followed by the pound sign. You entered 5786141. If this is correct, press 1. There is one other participant in this conference. Please announce yourself.
Hi, Ross, are you still there? Hello, Ross. Ross, are you there? Well, it says that Ross is on the audio line, but when I say something to him, he doesn't respond. My phone speaker is on. Anyway, Chuck, thank you for joining us. Maybe you can share, Chuck, what you know, the feedback that you've gotten from the two participants that you're mentoring on human rights and what the issues that they're focused on are. Would you mind doing that? Chuck, can you hear me? You can, hello, Chuck. Sandeep, maybe nobody's hearing me. Chuck is trying to come on. Okay, great. Yeah, now I can hear you.
Participants have on human rights, that they're both clear about the people's rights beyond the U.S. shores and how it affects everyone. That it's not just a thing you work for in your own country, but it really has global impact. The other thing is each one of them seems to be very much involved in a real way in dealing with human rights. And in Nigeria, what's interesting is the Boko Haram and the disappearance or the kidnapping of the young ladies. There's now a second wave of kidnappings and how the Nigerians. I'm trying to get an answer from Pat about how those two are related. If Nigerians view that as a human rights issue, and Patrick also pretty much outlined that his country does stand for human rights, that it is in their constitution, and that but again, it's like in the United States, it can be in the Constitution and not be enforced, or you can have problems with it. So, it's just excited about human rights being so high on the agenda of both of them.
Thank you. Ross, can you hear us now?
Yes.
Oh, great. Can you speak a little more loudly, please? Can you say something? Hello, Ross. Can you say something?
Yes, you can hear me?
I can hear you, but can you speak a little bit more loudly, because I'm going to test trying to have you speak into my computer so that other people. Oh, Chuck says he can hear you. So can you summarize the work that you've been doing on the Module 2 active learning assignment, and what you've found to be the major human rights issues in the U.S., I guess, and also your recommendations for if there was going to be a new international human rights agreement, what that would be. Could you speak for a few minutes, just summarizing the work that you've been doing?
Okay, well, the amount of work that I've been doing is relatively limited. The work that I did on the module and the learning activity, I read the materials, I started to research the different covenants that the UN had passed and established in the United States. And at first it appeared very encouraging that it appeared that the United States, had signed on to most of them, but except for one, which has to do with migrant workers and families. However, then when I dug deeper into all the different covenants and conventions that had been passed, the human rights part of the UN, I discovered 5 additional ones that weren't listed in the tables in the handout. None of which had been signed by the United States, and that was quite revealing. They have to do with war crimes, disappearing persons, some others. So it didn't look as good for the United States as it had first appeared based upon the table that was in the handout. Some of them weren't too surprising, given the political nature of the United States being what it is with respect to immigration.
Yeah, I can hear you. Okay, are people hearing Ross? Yeah.
So, and then war crimes, again, not surprising given our role in international conflicts. There could be concern with those. So, there's a lot that can be done with respect to the United States on the topic of human rights and just what's been done so far within the United Nations. I tried to do some analysis, but haven't gone too far down, just looking at each of the laws that the United States hasn't signed and what might be driving the inaction on the part of the United States on signing and ratifying those, as well as any trends that is there some commonality between the ones that have not been signed, and if there might be opportunities for getting traction on those in the future. The United States is not signed on to many of them.
Yeah, thank you. That echoes, I should share with you the active learning summary that Seth Layton, who's also from the U.S. and who's one of our participants, he also produced a table of the human rights conventions that shows that America hasn't signed on to maybe 75% of the major international human rights agreements, which is kind of shameful considering that we tout ourselves, America, as a country where we pride ourselves in the Bill of Rights and human rights and all that kind of thing. Seth in his paper also pointed out that when the U.S. has been observed in terms of their human rights performance, they're always signaled out for having a lot of people incarcerated, more people in jail in the United States than in any other country, and many for very minor offenses. Did you come across that issue at all, Ross? Can you hear me? Did I lose him again? Hello? So we're having big technology issues. I think I've lost Ross again. So I'll try to redial him. Hello, Ross, are you still there? Oh, okay, I think I lost you temporarily. So I was just saying that that the comments that you made about human rights issues in the United States kind of mirror similar comments that were made by Seth Layton, who's another participant who's from the U.S. And Seth also pointed out that the U.S. hasn't signed about 75% of the major human rights agreements, which is kind of shameful, considering that America touts itself, as being a country that promotes human rights. And also, he points out in his paper that that America also is cited for the unusually large number of people it has in prison. Many of those African Americans, and many in prison for very minor offenses. That's cited as a kind of major human rights abuse, if you will, in the U.S. Did you look at that issue at all?
Yeah, but I was definitely of that thinking, there's some hypocrisy with respect to, our core values, or at least stated core values, and your actual actions along those lines and many others.
Yeah. It's also interesting that this issue of migrant workers, the Convention on Migrant Workers, all of the participants from the so-called developed economies in this course, Canada, participants from Canada, U.S., and Great Britain, have indicated that they're countries that have not signed that particular convention. And it kind of reflects sensitivity, I guess, of immigration and migration as an issue for developed countries. I see that we have Stephen Bourget on the line from Canada. So, Stephen, welcome. And would you mind taking a few minutes and sharing some of the work that you've been doing on your active learning assignment summary for Module 2? If you can put your camera on and do it as a video presentation, or you can use the chat function, whatever is more comfortable for you. Can you hear me, Stephen? Well, we see that Stephen's online, but doesn't appear to be hearing us. So let me type in. Can somebody send? Sandeep, if you're there, can you, because my chat function doesn't seem to be working on Firefox, can you send Stephen a message asking him if he can hear us and if he's online? You there? So, yeah. So in the meantime, I can summarize the conversations I've had with several of the people that I've been mentoring, including Seth and Claire. Seth from the U.S., Claire from Great Britain, Aksa Nassim from Pakistan, Oliver Michael from South Sudan, and Christu Rajaman from India, and Stephen from Canada. What's come out from my conversations with these folks are that there are two kind of major issues that are of concern, human rights issues that are of concern in the countries where all of these participants come from. One is terrorism, and the other is the right to privacy, and they are related. The terrorism human rights issue manifests itself in different ways. Sometimes it manifests itself directly in the abuse of human rights that are practiced by countries in the name of trying to prevent terrorism, such as the United States in its persecution of suspected terrorists related to 9/11, and its abuse of human rights tactics in those persecutions. But in India, Rajan tells us that terrorism is used as stopping terrorism is used as an excuse or a cover-up rationale to justify acts of human rights abuse that are carried out by upper caste people and lower caste people. The issue of human rights and privacy also manifests itself in different ways. In some cases, as in the United States, the human rights violation is carried out by government in its unauthorized use of electronic surveillance techniques. But in other countries, such as in Great Britain, the privacy violations of human rights are perpetrated by businesses, in this case by media. There's a well-known hacking scandal in Great Britain where one of the leading newspapers illegally hacked into phone conversations of citizens across the country, and also of computer companies which store a lot of our information and use it without our permission. So it's kind of interesting to see how these major themes of terrorism and privacy, human rights themes, play out differently in different countries. Does anybody, Chuck says he can speak to this dilemma, so please.
Yeah, I'm not so much good speaking at it as I think I'm a little better writing it out, but let me give it a shot. The first thing is the trouble with using the word terrorism. That is, terrorism, as people have said many times before, is a freedom fighter to one person is a terrorism to the next. What would be more useful is to view acts as crimes. That if someone conducts some behavior or action that is criminal, then to prosecute them as criminals. But the fact of the matter is, with terrorism being a serious and increasingly so serious threat, the only or the best means of dealing with it appears to be gathering of information. And that gathering of information is going to impact on our privacy. And the more serious the threat becomes, the more it will impinge on our privacy. Not just our privacy, but every other fundamental human right we have, whether it's avoidance of torture or even life itself. If you're suspected of being a terrorist, now we can take you out with a drone here in the United States. But so the whole thing between the human rights and terrorism, our freedoms and terrorism are intimately linked, and no way of delinking them. Unless we decide to enforce the idea that we deal with crimes in a mode that we do here in the United States, and that you're innocent until proven guilty.
Thanks, Chuck. So I see Stephen is trying to communicate with us. So if you can hear me, can you affirm that you can hear me, Stephen? He says that the internet at his college is often dead in the morning, so he's not able, if he can connect through video, but you can connect through the chat conference function. If you're there, Stephen, can you
Leave at 9:30 a.m.